Welcome to the Shoulda Bet More podcast presented by Go Boys. Coming up on the show today, Kelley Bydlon of VSiN will join us. We will discuss some NBA as we head into All-Star Weekend. We'll get into some big picture stuff, awards, futures, and I will talk a little NBA. I think for the first time pretty much on here coming up. I do want to start, though, with the Super Bowl just because when we recorded Sunday, it was such a great game, and I don't want to say rushed, but we wanted to get it up as quick as possible, get it out as quick as possible. So it was an instant reaction. I didn't really have time to, digest everything, react to the reaction. So I just quickly wanted to touch on that. I am shocked. Now I came on here after the game and I was like, look, I would have played defense first in overtime if I'm Shanahan. And I gave all the reasons. It's like, I want to know what I need. I want to have perfect information when I have the ball. I want to put Mahomes in a situation where it's fourth down. If it's fourth down on his own side of the field, he might punt and I might get the ball back with a chance to win on a field goal. So I would have played defense. I would have kicked. That being said, this idea that he made some huge, enormous blunder that you can't in any way take the ball first is just some huge mistake he made. I don't buy that at all. I'm shocked how much criticism he gets. I think people are completely playing the results, and I'm not a Shanahan fan. I think his record in these big games speaks for itself. I mean, this is double-digit lead after double-digit lead. He has blown Super Bowls, NFC title games, offensive coordinator with the Falcons, and really this loss by the 49ers, that loss on Sunday was the worst loss I think anyone's had since the Falcons when you consider the stakes of the game, when you consider how many times they've been close, how many chances they had to put the game away. That's a brutal loss. They were the better team for most of the game. Look, I don't give Shanahan a pass on all this stuff. Like he's had a bad resume here in these big games, but I think people are going way, way too crazy killing him for taking the ball because let's just paint a scenario. And people have gone crazy that his comments after the game were, well, I wanted to have the ball third. If I have the ball third, I'm in a major advantage. That is true. People killing him for that. Like, oh, you never got a third possession. Let's just say it's true. You didn't get a third possession. Let's just say the game played out 100 times, 1,000 times. There would probably be 30% of the time, I don't know, 40%, 20, I'm just round numbers, approximating. There would be a significant portion of the time, a significant percentage where you match, where if you go on defense, if you're San Francisco, it goes field goal, or it goes punt, or it goes turnover, turnover. In those scenarios, you're at a major, major disadvantage if you decide to play defense and you put Mahomes in a position where all he needs is a field goal to beat you. Let's just say that happens. Let's say San Francisco went on defense like we all wanted them to do, and the Chiefs get a field goal their first drive. Niners match with a field goal. Then Mahomes is sitting there where all he needs is a field goal to win the game, and you don't get a fourth possession. You don't get the ball back. People would be killing him if that game ended that way. People would say, how could you give Mahomes an extra possession? You're an idiot. You got to have the 2 out of 3 possessions. So I think there is a little bit of playing the result. Now, I still would have kicked. I didn't take into account, and he didn't say this after the game. But other people have mentioned it. His defense was tired. His defense just had a long drive. I think that's a fair point. Now, you do get some timeouts in overtime that you don't really need in terms of the clock, like regulation. So you could have used some timeouts on defense. Again, I don't know that that's the biggest deal. Again, I probably would have kicked for all the reasons I mentioned, but this idea that he made some enormous blunder, some huge mistake is incorrect. I think there's a very reasonable case for kicking it. There's a very reasonable case for taking the ball. Give the NFL credit. They have come up for years. We've had this back and forth about what should overtime be. Should you play a full quarter? Should it be first team to 7? It used to be sudden death, and it was basically came down to a coin toss. I mean, I'm a Vikings fan. The Vikings lost in overtime to the Saints because Favre throws an interception. They go to the coin toss. Saints win the toss. They get the ball and they kick a field goal. And Vikings never get the ball. That's a cheap ending. That's not fair. Then after that, they change the rules. And then they changed the rules again a few years later with Buffalo, Kansas City. They've created a perfect system. I mean, they've created a format where it's very reasonable to take the ball. They've created a scenario where it's very reasonable to play defense. You're at certain advantages with one, you're at certain advantages with the other. It is a good debate. It gets good, talk radio. It's a good topic. You get people passionate on both sides. So I just wanted to say I was shocked. Like, again, I wanted to kick, but I was shocked that people just killing him for deciding to take the ball. That was not that unreasonable. Again, if they in Kansas City said, hey, if we scored a touchdown and they scored a touchdown, we would have gone for 2. So that's one less opportunity to match, but still, to me, to go back to it, where they lost the game, and you can point out a million different spots, the 2nd and 5, not running the ball. That's the one that would stick with me if I'm the 49ers, because 2nd and 5, Kansas City's down to 2 timeouts, 2.5 minutes left. If you just run the ball 3 times for 5 yards, you're going to be able to kick a game-winning field goal, basically run out the clock and just kick and either go to overtime or win the game on Moody's leg and not give the ball back to the Chiefs. So that's the one that bothers me. Again, the overtime could really go on either way. And I think Shanahan, who's not a good big game. I mean, look, if you're going to call him a choker, it's very hard to say, oh, no, he's not a choker. It's just very hard to defend at this point. And this is 10-point lead after 10-point lead. He was in the Super Bowl 4 years ago against the Chiefs, had a 10-point lead with the ball in the fourth quarter, had a 10-point lead the other night, was the better team for most of the game. 10-point lead against the Rams 2 years ago in the NFC title game in the second half, got conservative, didn't go for it. That big 28-3 lead with the Falcons. I mean, this is a resume. Look, some of it's bad luck, some of it's he's snake bitten, but it's hard to just say, hey, there's nothing to this. He's not a choker. That's completely, and I've heard this comparison to Andy Reid. Andy Reid was close but no cigar, just like Shanahan's close but no cigar, so they're the same. Andy Reid didn't blow all these leads. I mean, he has blown lead after lead here, so it is hard to defend at this point. But just wanted to wrap that up with the Super Bowl. We'll get to the NBA here in a minute as we head to All-Star Weekend with Kelley Bydlon. Boy, the All-Star Weekend used to be a lot of fun. The dunk contest, the game used to be watchable. They used to actually play somewhat defense. It was just a normal basketball game. I remember, Jordan playing versus Kobe, and these guys played. I mean, it wasn't Game 7 of the finals, but it was a real game. These guys would wear their own jerseys. It was watchable. It was definitely watchable. And so was the dunk contest. Much like the NBA, it's just their regular season has become really a disaster. Their All-Star Weekend has become a disaster. Their playoffs are still great. I'll still be into the playoffs, and that's the one thing, like with football going longer now, their playoffs are not that far away. We only have like 30-something games left. The playoffs are great. Nothing like playoff basketball. The regular season is a disaster with the load management and guys sitting out and, not playing night to night. It's been a little better this year, but it's still not great. It's still not what it used to be. And the All-Star Weekend is just so bad. I mean, the dunk contest is a bunch of people you never heard of. And the All-Star game, the team with the ball just goes down and dunks and throws alley-oops to each other. And the team on defense just watches and walks up the court and doesn't even get back on defense. They just basically stand at half court. And it's hard to watch. They've at least gone back to the East-West format. So you at least know who's on what team. But man, that game is impossible to watch. Big picture standpoint from the NBA though, couple questions, just a couple things thinking out loud here. Denver has not played great. Now you can say, hey, they've won a title. They're coasting and they're fine. I buy that. Or you could say, hey, there's just, you know what? You win a title, you lose that 10% of the edge. You're going to cost yourself home court. They might be in some trouble. So Denver's a team to watch. I think they're interesting. Milwaukee was the star of the offseason. They get Lillard. That has not looked great. I'm at the point where I'd be surprised, I think, if they won a championship. They're just so bad on defense. It's hard to remember a champion that's looked this bad for this long and had this many poor performances and still won it. So they're definitely a team to watch. And Phoenix is an interesting team. I think we all agree the Clippers, the Nuggets, and the Celtics can all win it. The Celtics are the clear favorite in the East. They will be the 1 seed. Other than that, and this is what makes the NBA playoffs, it's going to make them a lot of fun. It's pretty wide open. Like I said, we have 3 teams that can definitely win it. After that, you get a bunch of these teams like the Suns, who, I mean, they're good enough to win it, but can they keep their guys healthy? You get teams like the Bucks, who they have the talent, but do you really trust them? And then you get teams like the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Sixers. It is really wide open outside of the big 3. I think the champion would probably still come from that 3. I think that's a safe bet. And even including the Clippers there is risky with their health history and Kawhi now dealing with a shoulder. I don't know how serious that is. But it's a pretty wide open NBA. I mean, it's not usually a league where you get Cinderella, but last year we saw Miami come out of nowhere. A few years ago, Atlanta came out of nowhere. The Suns. I mean, so it has happened a few years recently, but it's a pretty well balanced league. So it's look, the playoffs are not going to be a situation where you go in. Other than Boston, who like hasn't proven that there's some dominant team either. Like the playoffs are pretty wide open. It's pretty balanced. I think seeding, especially in the West, is going to matter because a team like Denver, you don't want to put yourself in a position where, now it didn't come to this last year. They had home court. They didn't get to a Game 7, but the best way to beat Denver is to not only not have to go there for Game 7, but get them in your building for Game 7. If Denver's in a situation where they got to play like Phoenix in the first round and then go through the Clippers and then somebody else really good, like that's a different pass. So the pass for these teams will matter. The seeding will matter. That is something to keep an eye on going forward. But, I can't put the Sixers, the Knicks, these teams. There are certain teams where I'd be surprised if they won, but it's a pretty well-balanced league with Denver coming back to the pack, Boston being a bit unproven, the Clippers with all their health history, and those are the best teams. So it should be fun. It should make for a good playoffs, a competitive playoffs. I'm excited for it. I think some of these awards are still up for grabs. So 30 games to go down the stretch. We will start to do a little more NBA, a little more college baseball before you know it. So coming up next, it will be Kelley Bydlon. We'll talk some NBA, some awards, some futures. That is next. This is the Shoulda Bet More podcast. All right, we are back. Shoulda Bet More. Excited to talk a little NBA with our next guest. You can hear him on VSiN. He's a host, producer, hardwood handicappers, long shots. I don't know if I have enough time to list all of his jobs and shows. Live Bet Sunday. It is Kelley Bydlon. Kelley, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Will. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's a long list, but you got everything. I think you nailed everything, man. You're like maybe the first person ever. I'm impressed.
I hit the 5-team parlay of all of Kelley's jobs.
You did, yeah, man. You really did.
We'll go around the league here. I'll start with this though. We're recording this a couple days before All-Star Weekend. Any awards that are bettable right now at their prices?
Yeah, you want to get me going on this? That's fine. Let's get going on this, Will. MVP market. I think there's one guy who's very bettable. I think there's one guy that people have disagreed with me on, but look, we got the Bontemps straw poll yesterday. I think that does have to affect things in the market a little bit. I still think Jokic being as big of a favorite as he is a little ridiculous. I'm wondering, I know that the straw poll backs that up a little bit more, but I'm wondering how many people, and JVT and I talked about this today on Hardwood Handicappers. We're just wondering how many people were, you have this Embiid stuff, I don't want to say sneak up on you, but kind of sneak up on you. And, Tim Bontemps shoots you a text or an email and asks you for your ballot of right now. How easy is it to put Nikola Jokic #1 right now, knowing that you've got, a month and a half here for this to sort itself out? I think that's, it's too easy to do. I'm wondering how accurate really that straw poll would be for if people had to submit a final vote today. I think they would take a little time and put a little bit more thought into it. And I think when you're talking, putting him up to what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's doing right now in Oklahoma City Thunder, I think you can make a pretty strong case for SGA. If you look at some of the advanced analytics stuffs like EPM over at Dunks and Threes, estimated wins, SGA's higher in both than what Jokic is doing right now. I think that there are still, this is what has been brought up the past couple of years, but I'll bring it up again. I think there are some voters that will be hesitant still to give Jokic the nod of putting him in the 3-time MVP category, especially when this has not been his best season, when he's of him winning or when he's been in the running for MVP. So there's a lot going into it right now, Will, where I think if you're looking at SGA close to 3-1, it's still a bet on for me. I bet him, a week or two ago, week and a half ago, something like that, plus 350. I think you're still looking at him around 3-1. And we know a little bit more info now based off this straw poll. I think it's still a good bet. I really do.
Is Kawhi live? He's down to 45-1. The adductor strain. You always worry when you bet anything Clippers related. Kawhi, Clippers, futures, whatever. You're one tweet away, one update away from he's out 6 weeks. He needs surgery. But you got the All-Star break coming. I don't know, 45-1. You've missed the best numbers. Is he live if he can get back on the court? And is this a long-term thing? I haven't looked into how serious this is. But where are you at with Kawhi in terms of this award?
Yeah, I think it's. I think you summarized it all with it. It doesn't sound like it's too serious, Will, but we haven't gotten a ton of information on it yet. And with it being Kawhi Leonard,
never going to get anything.
Yeah, you A, never going to get anything, and B, I think we've learned as bettors by now that you should be looking at this as more of a pessimist than an optimist, right? Like I'd always like to be optimistic about people's injuries, but man, with Kawhi Leonard having the injury history he does, it's kind of hard to be that way. But let's say he's going to be fine out of the All-Star break. He's back. Everything's fine. I think there's 5 guys that are truly live to win this award. And that would be Nikola Jokic, SGA, Giannis, Luka, and Kawhi. I think anybody else below that you can cross off. I know Jason Tatum's got shorter odds than Kawhi Leonard right now. I don't even think he really stands much of a chance. He'd have to put up insane numbers, I think, for the rest of the regular season for him to really have a chance. And with them already in the 1 seed in the East, I just don't really think you're going to see that from Jason Tatum. Kawhi Leonard, there's a path. Does it require the Clippers to have the 1 seed? Absolutely. Does it require his level of play to probably continue at somewhat of what this level's been that he's put on the past month? Yeah, probably. But there's a path. I think there's a path there. Luka Doncic, man, I know everybody wants to get excited about Luka every single year, and the numbers are amazing and it's incredible. I think these guys got to crack that top 6 for us to even consider Luka as a real MVP candidate here. And then look, the one I'll give way on, I would have put Jokic, SGA, and Giannis in a group by themselves up top. I think the one thing that I have to back down from now after that straw poll is, okay, Giannis is probably a full step away from those other two now.
Big picture stuff here. We'll start with Denver. Is this just, hey, we won a title, we don't take the regular season as seriously, there's nothing to be concerned about? Or you look up and, hey, playoffs start today, they're a 4 seed. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to go with the Phoenix, then another good team, then the Clipper. Like you want the easiest path possible. You want home court. Where are you at with Denver? Is this a concern, not a concern for how they play just overall?
Yeah, they are still a strong contender to me, but I mean, I think everything you just hit on is really important. This isn't a team that's I mean, look, I don't think they're going to have as easy as a path to a Western Conference title as they did a year ago, no matter what happens with their own team. But man, they got to put themselves in a situation, I think, where they got to get higher up there in the standings, where they can lock in some more home court advantage and really have that go their way. This team, they're not as deep as what they were a year ago. I still think they're really, really good, but that depth, I think, is going to be a little bit of an issue, rest of the season and once they get into the playoffs. But I mean, look, I think that it's Clippers. End of the day, when we're talking about who's really coming out of the West, Clippers, Nuggets, Suns are probably who I'm still thinking about the most of who's realistically coming out of there. So, am I really worried about Denver? No, not too much.
Yeah, I think that home court is so big for them. The path is so big. Like, because it didn't come to a 7th game last year, but I mean, the best way to unseat them is, hey, if you get it to a 7th game, if you're Minnesota, if you're the Clippers, if you're these other teams, get it in your building, get it away from Denver.
Yep.
And that not only do you, it's a swing where not only do you not have to go to Denver, but now you get it in your building. So it's
it's a kind of double whammy in that sense.
Right.
You're right. Like it is such an advantage for them to have it so much more than anybody else, that if you can take that away, it's huge.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think when you win a championship, you just naturally there's a 10% of that edge that gets killed, especially during the regular season. You never know. We've seen this with the Warriors. Hell, we've seen this with the Chiefs in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You never know how real that is. You never know, hey, this team's just not as good, or hey, they're pacing themselves. They're playing a little, they're playing possible. It's very hard to tell with that. We've seen that with LeBron teams, with Laker teams, Warrior teams. It's just hard to tell when you won a championship. You don't play as well the next year, how much, what to attribute that to.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of chuckling over here because it is. I think if there was any team and any player that we would say that about even more was it would be Nikola Jokic. Like Nikola Jokic, and I love him for this, but he has shown us exactly who he is. Man, I love my horses. Basketball, I'm just here to basically punch in, punch out. I'm going to dominate and work my ass off while I'm doing it, but I got other interests in life and stuff like that. So, I mean, when you've basically heard him tell you that, it's hard to not think of it when you're, yes, in the dregs of the NBA regular season, and you're kind of like, oh, how serious are these guys taking it? I don't know. I've seen video of him in practice watching horses on his phone. I know that much.
Yeah, I feel like he's leaned into it a little bit too, where he likes the idea of I just happen to, be the best player, win a championship. It's just sort of what I do in my free time.
Yeah, just kind of what I do. Yeah, whatever.
Let's play a little game here. Do you like games?
Let's go.
Can they win a championship? We'll just go team by team here. The Milwaukee Bucks, can they win a championship?
Yes.
Okay. You're not concerned. You have to be concerned. There's very disparate performances between when they look good and when they don't. You didn't hesitate at all. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised you said yes. I'm surprised you didn't hesitate at all.
Yeah, no, there's
but you're a Dame guy.
Well, you're making me go yes, no. And
I like it.
I still think you've got 2 of the best players on the planet on that team. And the one thing I keep bringing up, we saw the same thing with the Clippers a little bit when they first got Harden. They were stuck out on the road. They were playing crappy when they first got him. It took a little while. When they got back home, were able to get some practices under their belt and got back out there. They looked like a completely different team, and they look like a completely different team now. Well, I think that as much as we want to make fun of Doc Rivers, a lot of it's rightfully so, can we give this guy a chance? We haven't even really given him a chance. They've been home for 3 games now. Give him the All-Star break. And here's the thing. I don't think anybody expects their offense to get any worse. and the defense can't really get any worse. So there's only one way for it to go, pretty much. So that's the way I look at Milwaukee.
Yeah, I guess to answer my own question, like, would I be shocked if a team with Giannis and Dame won the championship in June? No. How could you be shocked? I'm at the point where I'd be a little surprised. I don't know. It's just been such a strange season with the coach, the defense.
Yeah.
It's been a strange season. But yeah, I'm generally with you. How about Phoenix? Can Phoenix win a championship?
Yes, but they are the Bucks of the West, right? Like
Great
there's
comparison.
a lot of talent, there's a lot of questions, right? Like they are not the team. Like if the NBA finals were starting today, I don't think me or you are betting on Milwaukee or Phoenix right now, right? But I think they absolutely, yes, they can. Too much talent there.
It's almost like they're one of the smartest kids in class, and if they're in class, they could ace the test. You worry about them showing up to the class because you were always worried. Like Durant's had injury issues, he's been fine this year, but Booker, Beal, it feels like it's tenuous with them.
Yeah, and look, we don't really know what the extent is of this hamstring injury again now with Beal. We don't know. We don't know. And so it's I mean that's another thing. And if they don't have, the way I'll put it with them though, if they don't, they need everybody. They need everybody. And I guess you could say the same thing about Milwaukee, but they need everybody out there. Like if they don't have one of those big three, cross them off the list.
And I don't think it's a great bet to expect those three guys to be together for 4 series. Like that's hard for me to picture. I have to see it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
OKC, can OKC win the title?
No, I mean they are. I love watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I love watching Chet Holmgren. I love watching Jalen Will. I love so many pieces of this team. I think they're going to be outmatched at too many different positions against most teams. I think that they could. I think they could realistically make a run to the Western Conference Finals, something like that. I think could happen. To see them getting through the West and through an NBA Finals. I don't think I could see it.
I'm with you. I'm a no. I'd love to be wrong. They just feel like
I'd love to be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a year away, a move away, a body away. It just feels like not quite. Not
Sure.
quite.
And look, like for how far teams have come. I mean, come on, where this franchise was at just a few years ago, and I mean last year. I feel like I got ripped apart when I was talking about I bet an over on their win total this year, and I was getting ripped apart from everyone where it was like, well, they made their leap a year ago. Like they can't possibly go to another level. Yeah, they did. They just went to a whole nother level, and that might be the best team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they feel a little like a mid-major team in the NCAA tournament. Like Florida Atlantic, you can get to your if everything goes right, you get to a Final Four. But Florida Atlantic's not winning the tournament. That's a little bit what OKC feels like now. Philly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with one big if, right? I mean, Joel Embiid comes back and he's completely healthy. Yes, that team can win an NBA Finals.
Just feels like it's hard to similar to Phoenix, where you have to check a lot of boxes. You got to come back quick enough. Probably going to be in like the play-in now. Then you got to go through a tough road and keep Embiid healthy. He's always had trouble with conditioning to begin with. Now, it feels more like a no to me. I get if they were fully healthy, but it does feel like you'd be surprised or shocked if they won a title. Or you wouldn't be. Like sitting here right now, I'd be pretty shocked.
No, I frankly wouldn't be shocked if they won a title. But it all has to do with health. I mean, if you told me that, Will, I would say, well, then 100%. Joel Embiid was back by the beginning of the playoffs. They had, the 3 or 4 seed where they had a home court advantage at least in one playoff series. And then Joel Embiid was a monster through the playoffs and took them all the way to the NBA Finals. Got a good draw and they won.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to be like, oh, he's back. He's not on a minutes restriction. He's the Embiid he was before he got hurt in perfect time. It's just, boy, it's asking a lot. And it's tough because they've been so snake bitten. Embiid getting hit in the face, meniscus. It's just they just can't seem to catch a break and be at their best when it matters. How about the Knicks?
No. I think another team that I feel like they're the Chargers of the NBA a little bit. Like it's everybody takes a year's turn to be excited about the New York Knicks. This is the New York Knicks team I'm the most excited about, Will. The past couple of years I've been like, man, no, they're not anything. I think that I was slow to come around on Jalen Brunson a bit. I think some of these other additions they've had have been huge. Look, I think this team kind of goes as far. It sounds weird, but people bring it up often because of what he does on both sides of the court. It goes as far as Julius Randle takes them. But I just think when you're talking about how some of these how some of these other teams are constructed in the NBA and the top level NBA players that they have on them. And then you're kind of at the end of the day saying, hey, we're going to battle with a 7-game series with our two best players, being Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. They're still just a little overmatched.
Yeah, I did my opening right after the trade deadline, and I was like, look, I know everyone's excited about him, and you can tell me they made the conference finals. That's probably where their ceiling is. Now, look, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought Miami was beating Boston last year. You get in the conference
No, no.
finals,
Yep.
somebody rolls an ankle, you get hot from three, the other team gets cold from three. Who knows? But it'd still be very hard. Like I know I was wrong about Brunson. I thought, oh man, you're giving that guy a lot of money for a guy who hasn't been an All-Star, probably won't make an All-Star team. Was dead wrong. But I
Me
still,
too.
I'll
Yep.
double down and be like, look, Jalen Brunson's probably not going to be the best player on the title team.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree with everything you just said. I was the guy that doubted it at the trade when they made the trade. I'm the guy who's we're eating our words today. Like absolutely, Jalen Brunson has far exceeded my expectations. I still don't think where he's at though is good enough to take them to a championship.
He's one of those. He's so much fun to root for. So much fun to watch. I don't even mind
Yeah.
being wrong. Like usually, I root for myself to be right over everything. He's one like, you know what? I was wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. He's great. You know, he's got a game you like. He's a college player. He's just kind of a throwback. He's just a gamer. I don't mind the fact that I was wrong.
I'm going to put it in the same camp as what we said about the Thunder. Like, assuming I don't have any bets against them, I will be rooting for these teams to go as far as they can. They are fun teams to root for and watch.
In the Garden in May, if they can win a round or win 2 rounds, I was disappointed the way they played against Miami. I thought they could get by Miami. They just couldn't get enough offense outside of Brunson. It'd be fun though to get them second, third round. It would be, get that building rocking would be a lot of fun. How about the Clippers or I'm sorry, the Timberwolves or the Cavs? Yeah, I'll throw them both in together. Can either one of those teams
No,
win a championship?
No, I don't think so. But man, I mean, going back to the Knicks real quick, I would kill to see a first or second round series, most likely between Knicks and Cavs again. I mean, I lost a lot of money on it last year, but that Cavs team got embarrassed by the New York Knicks in that series last year, and I would love to see those two teams match up again with how well they're both playing right now. I think it would be a fascinating series. Look, the Cavs real quick. I think they're a great team. They have a team I have an over win total bet on. So go Cavs. Love watching them play recently. Love watching them rack up these wins. I just think it's going to be stylistically they're going to run into some problems probably with some matchups. Yes, the bigs are always going to be an advantage for them, but I think it's going to be a lot of reliance on Donovan Mitchell and then making threes to really carry them through the playoffs. Probably too much more than's realistic.
All right, so that ends our can they win the title game. I'll throw these two teams out there, and I don't think either of us probably think they can win a title. But if one of these teams makes a run, whether like conference finals, who's more likely? And they're similar because they both older teams have won a lot. Lakers or Warriors, who is more likely to just wake up and win a round, maybe win 2 rounds?
Oh man, that's the ultimate question right now. And I guess I feel like I'm the guy who I feel like most people at this point are going Warriors. I'm going to stick with the Lakers. Like I think it's I agree with all the people that have said, okay, this is the Lakers are at a worse point than what they were at last year at this point because you've at least had LeBron and AD healthy all season, which I don't know if any of us would have expected, and they really haven't put anything strong together. But when we're talking the playoffs, Will, and I got 7-game series and I still got LeBron and AD I can throw at you, man, that's a lot of problems to deal with for any team. And with all due respect to Steph Curry, do I say that? Because he is a monster. But man, I just think over a 7-game series, the Lakers are more of a problem for any other team.
Are you getting involved at all-Star weekend, All-Star game MVP, any of this 3-point shootout? Anything in terms of that for you?
I'll usually throw a couple darts on a couple guys to win the 3-point contest. I'll be honest though with you, I haven't looked at odds for that at all. I know that people have started to post them, but I haven't looked at odds.
They were up a minute ago. I'm trying to
I was just gonna say I have it in front of me and I still can't find them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some of these books don't do the best job of just making it so easy to find. I remember like top of my head, McClung was a big favorite for slam dunk. I don't think you could lay 250 in a contest like that. Brown, I know was up there like 3-4 to 1.
Yeah, I don't bet the dunk contest. It's too tough. Like there's very few books that post odds anyways. It's obviously extremely subjective. I think the 3-point contest though, I would usually like making a couple bets there. It looks like it's Dame like about 5 to 1, Malik Beasley plus 550, Halliburton 550, Brunson, Cat, Trey 6 to 1. I mean, it's a hell of a 3-point contest
Yeah, it's not
roster.
bad.
It's like incredible. I mean, these guys are like there's a bunch of all stars out there outside of Malik Beasley, I guess. Like this is pretty incredible. I was like looking at a couple of these guys a little bit further down though. I mean, Trae Young at 6-1's jumping out to me right now from a guy that I mean, look, we know his prowess from deep, but it's also you want to look at some of their open 3-point shooting percentages. But you know, how many shots has that guy put up in an open gym where nobody's guarding him over his lifetime? Him all the way down at 6-1. I think I would probably be interested in.
Yeah, All-Star Game MVP I was looking at too. That's one of those things like, with the Super Bowl when you bet the national anthem, like, and there's controversy that you bet this, you get what you asked for. Don't go too crazy.
Right? Yeah,
I saw
exactly.
Edwards was 12-1 though. Like, this is a
I
game
like
where
that.
athleticism jumps out. He's younger. He'll try hard again. I mean, handicapping this is not that easy. Shea at 14-1. If you had to pick somebody for MVP, was that something you get involved in, or it's not even worth it?
Usually not, but I like the Anthony Edwards. I think of talking about some guys that might just show up and want to put on a show. Who's a little bit young enough to care. I think he's someone who would.
You think there's any fixing this All-Star weekend? I don't want to be like the back in my day guy, but the All-Star weekend used to be awesome. The dunk contest, they actually used to play basketball. I know it wasn't like
Yeah.
Game 7 of the NBA Finals, but it was like a real basketball game not that long ago. It's turned into just like the team with the ball just goes and dunks. The team on defense doesn't get back to half court. I mean, I don't know.
It's
Can we get a
awful.
little more competitive with it? It's a shame because if the game's half decent, like there's nothing else to watch. I don't know if we'll ever go back to that though.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I don't really think we will. Probably it's the I wish we could get do like the in-season tournament though, and give these guys more of like get for the dunk contest is the one thing that can and should be restored. Right? This is not like it's not like the home run contest where it's like, okay, we're worried about throwing off swings or anything. Like really, come on.
Right.
Like I've never understand when some of these guys don't participate where they're doing it in practice. We see it in pregame warmups. We see it in the games all the time. Like the in-season tournament, give a financial incentive for some of these big name guys to compete. And when I'm saying big name, is that going to mean it's going to require a big price tag? Yeah, probably. But like you throw some money at these guys, you're going to attract a lot more guys that want to be involved in it.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it's a shame because it used to be like a fun weekend, like the 3-point shootout, which is still the same. I mean, that
Yeah, that
hasn't
one's
lost as
fun
much.
still.
That's
Yeah,
okay, but like the dunk contest has really lost its luster, and the
it
game
really
itself
has.
just not not what it used to be. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one the one nice thing about the dunk contest is we get guys like Mac McClung last year where you're like, oh, like I didn't even know this guy was on a roster. And like, wow, he's putting on a show. But I think we'd all rather see the stars in the
Right.
league do these types of things.
They've at least gone back to East West for the All-Star game, which it was too confused. I got the idea of a pickup game style and draft. It was cute at first, but it's hard when you turn on the TV and you don't know who's on what team. It just, I don't know.
Yeah,
East West, at least there's some sense of like organization. All right, I know Durant's in the West. I know Curry's on the West. I know, Giannis is in the East. At least I know who's on what team if they're going East West. That's at least a start.
I like it better as well. I'm also wondering though how like this changed. Like, was this changed before or after what happened last year? And were they worried about that becoming more of a thing with Giannis? What was it, Giannis? Right, picking Dame first, right? It was like, oh, here's a sign of what I might be asking for in the offseason.
I think it was more. I think Silver recognizes that. Hey, this has gotten away from us a little bit. It's become like the standards are low for it, but even still, like it's become a point where they're just not they're just walking through the game, like just jogging through the game,
It's
and nobody
awful.
knows what's
Yeah.
on what team. Let's at least go back to something where it make it half watchable. I mean, that's my only thought with it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's easier. Look, if you can grab 10 minutes of people's attention during something like that, you're winning already. So at least, yes, make it
Right.
east west. And if someone flips it on, make it easy for them to understand what they're watching.
So we went through who would win who could win the title, things like that. Is there anybody worth a bet in terms of just the title right now? Because we talked about all these other things. Is there anybody you'd actually bet? And the teams we I didn't ask about because I assume we all think Boston, Denver, and the Clippers can all win it. So that, I mean, you would agree with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And yeah, as far as actual title bets, it's so funny how we get so involved with this stuff day to day. It's so funny how rarely I even pull this stuff up. I
Right.
don't think there's nothing I'm running to bet right now. Frankly, I don't think I have a single future to win the East, West, or the finals. Yeah, I don't right now. So that is, I mean, look, I would lean I think it's going to be tougher not to be Boston coming out of the East. I mean, they're the most complete team in the NBA. I think they're the rightful title favorites. And there's nobody. There's nobody right now where I think there's the true value there next to their name to go run and bet it. Look, I mean, the one team that seemed me and you kind of different on a bit was the Sixers. I'm going to be monitoring this Joel Embiid situation closely and let that number drift. If I can get a bomb price on the Sixers before he returns, I think that's going to be worth a play. It's just not worth doing it now.
And the NBA is usually the league. It's not it's a chalk league. It's not the league where you get Cinderella. But that being said, like we saw Miami last year at some ridiculous prices, come out of the play-in, almost lose to the Bulls and not even make the playoffs and do some damage. So maybe we're in a new world here. Like the Rangers and Diamondbacks played in the World Series. We've seen some crazy thing in sports. So usually you wouldn't take a shot on a long, a flyer on a long shot. But who knows? Maybe we're in a different time here. Or
Yeah.
maybe it was a one-off.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, if you really, I mean, like Mavericks, Mavericks, Warriors, Lakers, right? If you really believed in one of those teams, yeah, those are some long enough numbers right now that I wouldn't hate those bets. I don't think they're realistic getting home.
I'm with you. Kelly, you're the best, man. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, at Kelley Bydlon on X, and check out the pods, long shots for golf, hardwood handicappers for NBA.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll do this again soon, hopefully.
Love it. Thanks, Will.
All right, that will do it. Thank you to Kelley Bydlon. Appreciate you guys listening, and we will be back Monday. Enjoy the weekend. See you then.